I never imagined that something as small as a blister could take a man's leg. You hear stories, of course, about people losing limbs from diabetes, but it always feels like something that happens to someone else, someone careless, someone unhealthy, someone who lives a different life than you. Not a man like me. Not a man who worked 40 years at the post office, who stayed active, who walked every morning, who believed he was still sharper and stronger than his age suggested. I never saw myself as sick. I never even saw myself as old. And maybe that was the first mistake, forgetting that the body keeps its own timeline whether you agree with it or not. My diabetes diagnosis came when I was 61. The doctor sat me down, spoke gently, explained everything I needed to do: monitor my sugar, take my medication, eat better, move more, watch my feet, pay attention to any cuts or sores, no matter how small. I nodded along, took the pamphlets, pretended to understand the seriousness, but somewhere deep down I didn't believe it. I didn't feel sick. I didn't look sick. I didn't act sick. To me, the diagnosis was just a word on a paper, a technicality, something to mention at yearly checkups and then forget about. For years, my numbers fluctuated. Some days good, some days bad. I lied to myself, said I'd do better tomorrow, said a slice of pie wouldn't hurt, said skipping a few days of medication was fine because my body knows what it's doing. My wife Sandra begged me to be more careful. She read articles, watched videos, showed me stories of people losing limbs from foot infections. I laughed it off. Honey, I walk every day. I'm strong. Those people probably didn't take care of themselves. She looked at me long and hard and said, Gerald, neither do you. But instead of hearing her concern, I heard judgment, so I brushed it off. Pride is a terrible filter. It turns love into criticism, concern into nagging warnings, into annoyance. The blister appeared on a warm August afternoon. I had worn the wrong shoes for my walk, an old pair with a stiff seam rubbing against my heel. When I got home and took off my socks, I saw a small bubble of skin, nothing more. No pain, no redness, just a blister. I washed it quickly and forgot about it. The next morning it had popped. Still no pain. That lack of pain felt like permission. Diabetic neuropathy took away the warning signs, but I didn't know enough or didn't want to know enough to understand that meant danger, not safety. Over the next days, the small wound changed. The edges darkened. The skin looked harder, shinier. But because it didn't hurt, I thought it wasn't serious. Pain had always been my measure of danger. No pain meant no problem. And so I did the worst thing a diabetic can do. I ignored it. Sandra begged me to see a doctor. I snapped at her. Told her she was overreacting. Told her it was just a scratch. Told her it would heal on its own. She said, your body doesn't heal the same way anymore. I said, stop treating me like I'm helpless. I regret those words more than anything I've ever said. A week later I noticed the smell, faint at first, like damp cloth, then stronger. I changed the bandage, convinced myself the odor was from old gauze, but when I peeled it back again, something inside me froze. The skin around the wound had turned almost black, not bruised, dead. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at it, unable to breathe. But even then, I didn't want to go to the doctor. I wanted it to go away. I wanted my denial to fix it. When Sandra saw it, she burst into tears. She didn't yell. She didn't say, I told you so. She just wept. Then she said softly, Gerald, please, please. We're going to the ER. And I, still clinging to the last threads of my ego, muttered, Fine. But they're just going to give me an antibiotic. I was wrong. The ER doctor took one look at my foot and called for a vascular surgeon. They spoke in terms I didn't understand: necrosis, ischemia, infection, tracking upward, lack of blood flow. Then the surgeon sat beside my bed, folded his hands, and said the words that hollowed me out completely. "You're in danger of sepsis. We may need to amputate." My throat closed. My hands shook. Sandra grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin as if she could anchor both of us to reality. I felt like I wasn't in my own body, like someone else's life was unraveling. I remember whispering, "It's just a blister." The surgeon looked at me with pity, not cruelty, pity, and said, "It was. A month ago. They tried to save it. IV antibiotics, debridement, wound vac, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Every day someone came in to peel away dead tissue. Every day the wound got worse. Every day I felt pieces of myself dying with it. The smell got stronger. The infection deeper. One morning I looked down and realized the foot didn't look like mine anymore. It looked like something detached from life entirely. The surgeon came in one afternoon with a gentle expression that told me the answer before he said it. "Gerald, we have to remove the leg below the knee. It's the only way to save your life." I cried. I cried harder than I did at my parents' funerals, harder than anything. I cried because of the pain, because of the fear, but mostly because I knew this was my doing, no one else to blame. Just me, my stubbornness, my ego, my refusal to listen, my belief that I was invincible. The days after surgery were the darkest of my life. Waking up and seeing empty space where your legs should be, it does something to a man, something cruel, something irreversible. I felt like half of me had been buried while the rest was still forced to breathe. Sandra tried to comfort me, but I pushed her away. I didn't feel like a husband anymore. I didn't feel like a man anymore. I felt like a warning wrapped in skin. Rehabilitation was slow, humiliating, painful. Learning to balance, learning to hop, learning to use a walker, learning to sit up without tipping. My body felt foreign. My future felt smaller. My world shrank to hospital rooms and therapy sessions. But the worst moment came months later. I was sitting on the porch, prosthetic leg leaning against the wall, waiting for Sandra to bring my tea. She stepped outside, set the cup beside me, looked at my remaining foot and said softly, "Please, take care of the other one." I looked at her, and for the first time I truly understood she had been fighting to save my life long before the doctors ever did. Now, lying here in this hospital bed for the second time, this time with heart issues caused by years of uncontrolled diabetes, I think about all the moments I brushed off, all the tiny signs, all the warnings, all the chances to save myself. I think about how different life would be if I had listened when the blister appeared, if I had gone to a doctor at the first sign of discoloration, if I had cared about myself even half as much as my wife cared about me. If someone were listening, really listening, I'd tell them this: don't ignore a wound just because it doesn't hurt. Pain isn't the only warning. Sometimes the lack of pain is the danger. Don't let embarrassment stop you from asking for help. Don't let pride cost you parts of your body. Don't think you're too strong for consequences. Don't tell yourself it's nothing. A diabetic foot never fixes itself. I lost a leg because I didn't want to admit I was vulnerable. I lost years of independence because I pretended I didn't need help. I nearly lost my life because I refused to face the truth early enough. If I could go back, I'd let Sandra drive me to the doctor the moment the blister appeared. I'd swallow my pride and let fear be a reason to act, not ignore. But I can't go back. I can only say this. A small wound is never small when you're diabetic. And denial is the sharpest knife of all.